to Liquid Lunch. It's me, Hugh, and I've got Dee and East on the Skype all the way from Georgian Bay. Dee, how are you?
I'm great. How you doing?
I'm great. I wish you had a webcam, though, because then we could actually...
Oh, I'll be getting one, Hugh. You bet.
But then you're going to have to do your makeup. You won't just have to, fall out of bed and...
I'll have to get... Yes. Oh, well.
Oh, well. So we got a picture of you. Let's just see Dee's picture again. This is when you were at the Juno Awards a couple years ago, right?
Yeah, that was one of the trips a few years back.
Yeah, where was that? In Vancouver, was it?
That was in Calgary.
Oh, Calgary. Okay, great. Anyway, great to have you. Great to be doing this today, Dee. It's been a while since we've spoken, but what are you doing? You're doing a show now on some other.
I'm all over the place, back and forth from New York, and yeah, .com. It's quite the radio.
Okay, I think we missed that. There was a dropout there, but where can people access your show?
Yeah, it's on Spreaker.com.
Spreaker. Not Streaker.
Spreaker.
That's a different show.
That's another show.
Well, okay, so Dee, that's great, and of course you're involved in the music business like always, and which is going to be great. Before we get into our first interview, which is all about the music business, just want to let people know that we've also got Joe Barbieri, Joe the Investor, coming on the show today, and Shawn Dalton coming back talking about immigration policy in Canada. And but we're going to start the show off. We've got Tanya Michell and LaPonne Burton from the Toronto International Music Summit, right, guys?
Yes, yes.
Thank you for having us.
And this is the first year of the summit. And Dee, of course, come on in and weigh in on this all the time, because I'm sure you're going to be interested in this. But guys, I don't know where to start. Why don't you? Who wants to tell the story of the Toronto International Music Summit?
Well, I'll start off, Hugh. Thank you very much for having us here. So the Toronto International Music Summit is launching its first year in Toronto this year. It was inspired to help independent emerging artists, to give them a global platform here in Canada. We are having a one-day conference event, which is held at the Fairmont Royal York Hotel on May 26th.
You can't find a better hotel than that, right?
It's a great place.
Yeah.
And we have a number of top industry professionals that are part of the event that are going to be speaking from Warner Music, EMI. We have guest speakers such as Director X, who's done all the celebrity videos,
Director X.
videos.
I think Dee knows Director X. Mm-hmm. Dee?
I've been on the show a couple of times. An amazing person and director.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. So, Tanya, is this kind of what can an artist from this conference?
What can an artist gain from the conference?
Yeah, they're basically going to get a lot of really good information. So we're going to be talking about music training, marketing and branding, how to market and brand your music, how to market and brand yourself as an artist, and also understanding the music business. So everything about music licensing, understanding about how to put a team together, and also mentorship, one-on-one mentorship about their songwriting and demo, where they can get one-on-one feedback on their music.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're the executive director of the summit. How did you get into this? Like, what happened? Did you hook up with LaPonne here?
Well, yeah, I have a great team actually behind me. So LaPonne Burton, has an extensive music background. I also have done a lot of events, so music, concert events with Live Nation, a lot of big events with celebrities and whatnot over the last couple of years. So we actually came together and decided to give emerging independent artists here in Canada an opportunity to have a global platform.
Okay. All right. Mm-hmm. Now, LaPonne, you're from California originally,
yes,
so
sir.
you get to bring some of that American I don't know what you want to call it.
American flavor.
Yeah. bring a blend, you know, we're like the partnership with each other, Canada and America. So ideally, this is a perfect fit to bring the Toronto International Music Summit. First of all, I'd like to commend y'all, Hugh Riley, for, you know, this being a 12-year stint for you. You know, I appreciate you creating global platforms. You as well, Denise, as well as we can't forget about James keeping the sound clarity on everything. So I just want to first start off by saying I really appreciate y'all. It's a beautiful day and a beautiful event on May 26th. The Toronto International Music Summit, like Tanya, the founder, said, is that how everything stemmed is back. We would do traveling. We would travel across the country in different places, and we noticed that different people had their own something to hang their hat on for independent artists. So Tanya kind of got frustrated because when we come out here and try to do business, artists wouldn't know how to get resources. They wouldn't know how to find out how to submit your music, to make sure it's being heard, how to get placement from TV and film. How, all these different components were kind of pretty much birthed the Toronto International Music Summit. So
what happened? You were traveling across the country, and you would notice that people who are in the music business trying to make it just didn't have the right information how to do this stuff?
Exactly. I'm from California, but I was, by the way, from Atlanta. I'm also a voting member of the Grammy. So what I was able to notice is that in Atlanta, like, you had, like, it was considered as a small circle at first.
Yeah.
Like, they had no resources. They was considered the mockeries of the industry. So
in Atlanta?
Yes.
At one time?
Yes.
Okay.
And then when the early 90s came apart, they began to pull their own resources and begin to build a conglomerate of all different artists, different genres, different directors, different poets, and so forth, and be able to make that one of the viable regions of the music industry.
And this, I heard, that Atlanta had a really good scene, and
Correct.
part of it was that everybody in Atlanta was kind of working together,
exactly,
just to try to help everybody.
And I witnessed that. I was there before Puffy had a name, Babyface, TLC, Usher.
Wait a sec, isn't Andre 3000 from?
Yes,
Atlanta?
Outkast. Yeah, that's my man. Our birthdays is
you
a
know
day
that guy?
apart. Yes, of course.
I love that guy.
Oh, yes. He's an artist. Yes, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they know me as Slick. That's what they used to call me. But yeah, we hung out a lot. He's a real down-to-earth person. But I think what that component, what Tanya Michell did with her vision, is take the Toronto International Music Summit and want to have that same motto in Canada. Because I spent a year and a half out here trying to do business, and it was really like dragging mud. So it's kind of like...
Yeah, that's interesting. But why? What was it about it that was like dragging mud?
I think it's the fact of that initially people have good intent, but they don't realize all the intricate pieces that it takes to get things done. So you can have a good idea, but if you don't have the resources in the team, like Tanya Michell mentioned, then the idea becomes in vain. So with Tanya Michell vision and then me coming on board, bringing my expertise, it allowed me to be able to hands-on let Canadians know that we can be that viable entity as well as an entertainment scene. It doesn't just have to be known for banks and, you know, having a stronger economy over America at this time. You know, it can be more so as also an artistic expression platform as well for all genres. You know, and that's what makes the Toronto International Music Summit something special, is because Canada Music Week has this personality, but the Toronto International Music has this personality for all genres. We're bringing it back to the retro 80s, where you had punk, mod, smash, humorous hip-hop, where it was fun. It was like fun, artistic expression. So that's what we're bringing it back for, people to be themselves. Long as they harnessed in on their craft and it's at a viable level, for them to be able to be a part of the Toronto International Music Summit and take advantage of these rich resources that are part of this brand. Okay,
so that's clear. So it's for all genres.
Correct.
And we're going to get into some more details about that. But I want to ask you about it, because we were talking before you came on, because you're from, I guess, Georgia originally, then California.
No, I'm born in California, born and raised California.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. But anyway, that with that American background and then coming up to Canada, because I've heard... And Tanya, maybe you can weigh in on this, that one of the problems in Toronto or in Canada is that, and Dee, you can speak to this too, I know, that, you know, people say they want to work together, but when it comes right down, everybody's kind of, you know, jealous of everybody. They don't really want to work together. They're kind of stabbing everybody in the back if it comes down to that. You know, do you think, and in your experience, seeing that from your perspective originally as an outsider, is there any, can we, are we, have you noticed that yourself, and
Yes.
are we going to be able to overcome that?
To answer your question, yes, we can overcome it, but I think a lot of people have to step away from the one tree and look at the whole forest.
Yes, for sure.
I think if you do not change that mentality, then it's going to continue to be more people complaining about the problems and less people working towards a solution. So, but like I said, by me witnessing myself, anytime you have a bunch of individual fingers, you have no strength. But if you close that fist together, you close those fingers together, you have a powerful fist. And I think that's what Canadians need to do, because I've been witnessing for the last 20 years. I've seen it in Alabama, Atlanta, you know, even I was born in San Francisco but grew up all over California. So I've seen a lot of that. Everybody, there's so many, there's so many chiefs, you know what I mean? So many Indians trying to play chief.
Right.
And the thing is, we had such a hard time with the Toronto International Music Summit originally, whereas we got more attention and more support from the States than even in Canada. So, and this first year is for Canadians only. So there was a lot of revenue loss because this was designated for Canadians to have something to hang their hat on. You know, long as you put the time, I feel that every artistic expression person has a right to work hard at their craft and have somewhere to express it. I think that marriage needs to be in place. So by that marriage not being in place, and there's so many different individual cliques or people want to have the monopoly on so many different acts, but not allowing those acts to participate in a whole bunch of things to lift that brand up, then you self-sabotaging your own country, your own region.
So I guess this summit, the Toronto International Music Summit, is for sure a step towards everybody kind of coming together, working together,
right,
and getting the answers they need to really make it in the business.
And the thing
Sounds
is,
great.
you know, Tanya Michell, like, she's been co-producing concerts for Live Nation and doing a whole stinger. Her background is so extensive, and she had to do basically her own big event to really for her to get her justifiable notoriety for a lot of things she done for people out here.
That's what Rocky did.
Yeah, but, you know, to add to what LaPonne was saying, I definitely think that we can come together as a community here in Toronto, but it's such a small community in the music entertainment industry out here. And when I started to pitch the idea to different people, I didn't look at it as competition with other events or other organizations. I looked at it as an opportunity to partner with other associations and events and things like that. So I built a lot of partnerships and alliances as part of this Toronto International Music Summit coming up. And it will definitely be an annual event that will continue to grow, and we've had a lot of interest, as LaPonne was saying, actually from the States, wanting to be a part of it, because they saw the vision, they saw the opportunity, and you know, we're just hoping that people will catch on to that.
So how are people in the States involved in this event this year?
Well, this year, actually, I wanted to have the base for Canada only, so you'll notice that all the speakers are from Canada. The artists are from Toronto, but next year we'll have it expanded into people from all over the world. So we have people that some of the guest speakers that do business out in the States, but they are originally from Canada that are part of the event.
Yeah,
but
which is a trend. A lot of times Canadians feel they have to go down to the U.S. to make it.
Why is that? Why is
it's just a bigger market?
Because the resources only go so far out here. If you're really thinking on a global scale, on a mainstream scale, you have to go to America and do business. You have to expand your vision there. You know, whether you're from anywhere in the country, that's the land of milk and honey. So, you know, you really have to go there. If you're really trying to be elite, you have to go there. But I think what you also have to do is make sure you're building your own country up. You know,
absolutely.
So even though you go there, you have to always take care of home first.
Don't forget your home. And I want to kind of intervene, because I won't never put out a name, but there are a couple of artists, they were really big in Toronto, They got their platform in the States, and basically they seem to be just swept under the carpet. It's like they went to the States, they kind of pushed them under the carpet, and now they want to come back and look to Canada, which is disappointing.
Yes.
Very disappointing.
But you have to find a silver lining in everything, and the thing is that when you have the world attention, now it's time to prove them right on why you have their attention, why you're captivating them. So this is the grand opportunity for Canadians who've been looking for attention, looking for opportunity to have a platform. Take advantage of this opportunity right now. Don't let it go in vain. I've seen it a lot of times where they finally got the attention and they don't capitalize off of it.
Absolutely. Just like anything, right? That's what you got to do. You got to follow through, and you got to deliver, do the research, and you got to get the information that you need. So let's talk about who are the people that are going to benefit most from the conference. And by the way, people who might be watching this after the fact, are you going to have one next year? So people get in touch and make sure you're there, whether this year or next year or the year after that. But who are the people ideally that are going to benefit?
So the target audience is really the independent artists, the garage band. You'll notice that the price point is targeted to that market because we wanted to be able to give them an opportunity to be able to network with the right people and to meet the right people, and also get the resources that they need. Okay. So
do we want to talk about the price point? Or they check the website?
But just to add to what Tanya was saying, it's really for anybody to actually benefit. And the reason why I say that is because we even have students who's not even involved in music who just want to learn the different components and so forth.
Maybe they're considering it as a potential career possibility.
Whether it's from a business, so it's from the business person, the student, the artist, the entertainer, the media coverage person, because you have to learn the different components of what. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, just so somebody that's looking at it, they could be from the artistic point of view, from the business point of view, maybe from a production point of view, all that kind of
media.
Stuff. Right?
So it has no ceiling. There's no cap on this. And speaking in regards to the price point, because we know this, Canada Music Week and other different things are extremely costly. And if you're speaking about the struggling artists, they can't afford that. I mean, I was a struggling artist 30 years ago, whereas you eating top ramen or tuna sandwiches, for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because so much is going into studio, manufacturing, the product, making sure it's going to be a good representation to what you're expressing. So, we had to keep that in mind in a price point. And that was another reason why we expect, Canadians to take advantage of this and go to TorontoIMS.com and take advantage of the 2-for-1. We have at the Hard Rock Cafe concert, the legendary Hard Rock Cafe concert, we have actually $10. You get 2 tickets for the price of $10 only.
And it's and
that's a 10-act concert.
10-act concert at the Hard Rock Cafe,
correct?
Right at
and free food.
And so you can't beat that. You got drinks, food, great entertainment, beautiful crowd, beautiful sound. You can't beat that with a bat.
Okay, so now is the concert the same day as the conference?
Yes,
correct.
So it is a one-day event. So the conference is from 10 to 3 at the Fairmont Royal York Hotel.
Okay.
And then the concert at the Hard Rock Cafe is from 5 to 9. And Hard Rock Cafe is actually one of our sponsors, sponsoring the event.
And a great venue as well.
And a very great venue. So it's right at Dundas
great
Square.
People. Great people over there.
Okay, so now people who let's talk about, just want to make sure we touch all the bases of the conference itself. What are the subjects that the speaker that people are going to learn about at the conference?
So we're going to talk about music training. So we have some of the top vocal coaches that will be part of that particular panel, and also a theory methodology teacher that will be giving some tips on kind of theory and music and training.
Okay.
Then we have understanding the music business. We have a 2-part, which is one about music licensing and entertainment law, contracts, things like that, how to protect your art. And then the other component is around managers and agents and publicists having a team, what to look for in a team, and what their roles are. And then we have a component on music marketing and branding. So we have Border Music, the VP from Border Music Canada. He's going to give us some information on what he looks for in marketing your music, and what he looks for in the artists, and giving some tips to artists on how to market themselves.
So that's got to be really useful because, you know, I think a lot of times people think that they're, you know, God's gift to the entertainment industry, but they don't yet know what the industry is really looking for.
Yes,
Exactly.
you're absolutely right. I think it's about you only can go as far as you know, and they have to have the knowledge. So we were fortunate to have the elite people who have, you know, 20 years plus, you know, 15 years plus in the industry to be able to share their expertise, because our role is to make sure that these artists, these Canadian artists that's coming through the crops will become the cream of the crop. And the only way you can become the cream of the crop is having that enriched knowledge, the knowledge on how to protect your art, how to also get paid for your art, how to create royalties.
And that's really important these days, especially in the post-Napster age.
The digital
right?
warfare, yes,
Yeah.
correct. So it's about teaching them how to create revenue streams, how to get sponsors and endorsements online to fund their shows, because it's hard as a struggling artist when technology is constantly evolving, and you being able to like have the funds or the revenue to invest into that technology to compete with your peers. You know, so we align people who are going to be mentoring them, informing them on how to concisely streamline the process. It's one thing to meet people, but it's another thing to be able to meet people, to have the knowledge, and how to apply it. It's a 3-step process.
Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense, and I think it's important to stress that sometimes people don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
Right? And they
Correct.
they may not know that they need to know all this stuff. Right? So it's perfect. Now, I think we lost Denise, unfortunately, but is there anything else we need to mention that maybe we haven't talked about yet today?
So again, I guess the conference is a one-day event at the Fairmont Royal York Hotel from 10 to 3. And then we have a concert at the Hard Rock Cafe from 5 to 9. And that's a 10-act concert. It's representing all genres of music. We also have a fashion show that's going to be incorporated in there as well. So a lot of prize giveaways and whatnot.
So it's going to be a lot of fun.
So a lot of fun.
At the end of the day,
At the end of the day,
after
yes.
everybody learns so much stuff and a chance, I guess, to schmooze and network with everybody,
Exactly.
right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's a great networking conference, networking event. If people want to learn more about the business, also network with the right people, know who's who in Toronto and Canada, about who they need to meet and what they need to do.
All right. So, sorry.
It's the
LaPonne.
edutainment model, whereas educate them in the daytime
Yeah.
and have a grand old party in the evening.
Just like real life.
There you go.
Yeah.
Couldn't have been said any better.
All right. So what's the best way for people to, you know, attend, get tickets, whatever they need to do?
definitely get tickets online at torontoims.com.
Okay.
2 for 1. 2 for 1. We have prices and tickets available for everybody. Take advantage of this. The conference is sold out. We want to make sure the Hard Rock Cafe is sold out as well, because that's really what we give in the independent artists the opportunity to perform and blaze the stage.
Yeah.
And we got top tier people performing as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
So take advantage of that opportunity.
All right. Do you want to mention some of those top tier performers just to get
Go
people
ahead.
hyped?
Shoot.
Go
I mean, we got Dane the Heartthrob Heartcell. We got Linda Lozano. We got Little Black Dress. We got Solid Mass. We got the list goes on. I mean, we have a whole host.
Anastasia.
We got Anastasia A, who just was performing at the Junos. She's the Reverb Nation contest winner, who's one of our partners on the event. So we went through a contest where Reverb Nation there was like almost 1 million people who voted, who submitted their music and so forth. And Anastasia A was actually the person who was selected to perform along at the Hard Rock Cafe concert. So it's going to
Awesome.
be an extravaganza like no other.
Okay. Great, guys. Great to meet you
Thank you.
and have
Yes,
this conversation, and great to hear about it. Sounds awesome. May 26th of this year, 2012. And, of course, people can get in touch to sign up for the year after that if they happen to miss it. And the website, again, is
You don't want to miss
Toronto
this.
IMS. That's right. TorontoIMS.com, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Hurrah,
Thank you,
James,
Hurrah.
Denise, y'all the best. Liquid Lunch.
Thanks.
Thank
too,
you
man.
so much.
And thanks, Tanya. So, and we got this video that we're gonna watch, which is the what is it? The promotional trailer?
It's a promotional video talking about who the speakers are going to be at the conference.
Okay, great. All right, thanks, guys. And we want to have you back next year too.
Absolutely.
So,
Beautiful.
Okay. So we're gonna watch the video. We're gonna come back with our next guest as Liquid Lunch continues.
Watching it slide down the window pane.
Welcome back to Liquid Lunch. It's me, Hugh, and we got Joe Barbieri, or should we call him Joe the Investor today? Joe, great to have you back on the show.
Yes, how are you?
Good. Always something to talk about because, boy, I watched, you wouldn't believe this, but last night I watched, Niall Ferguson, his fabulous, I guess originally it was a book called The Ascent of Money, and then he did a 4-hour, I don't know if it was BBC documentary on money.
Yeah, I have his book, The Ascent of Money.
Yeah, I have it too.
It's very interesting.
It's very interesting.
He goes way back in the past.
Yep, but he doesn't go far enough. And I don't mean far enough back in the past, but I don't think he goes far enough in
detail.
In assigning, where the problem is. Because I think he closed the doc by saying that we have to find the right balance between the amount of debt and the amount of. But to me, the whole interest thing is completely unsustainable in the long run, as Europe is finding out.
Yeah, that's one of today's topics.
So we got a couple topics today. Let's just say what they are first. Europe is one of them.
Europe is one of them, and J.P. Morgan is the other one.
J.P. Morgan, the bank.
The bank.
Not the person who founded the bank. J.P. Morgan, who ruined.
It's the last week's news.
Okay.
There's been a lot of news on both of those
All
this
right.
week.
Which one do you want to start with?
We'll start with J.P. Morgan.
Okay, J.P. Morgan.
So,
all right.
Have you read the news of the last
Was this
days?
about they made a $2 billion loss or something like
that's
that?
it, yeah.
And what's the situation there? What happened? Bad derivative trading?
Well, it was a bad trade.
Yeah.
Now, all the news is about trying to find out why. It happened fairly quickly. It was over 6 weeks. That was what the news has reported. And it was on a large position of $100 billion.
Okay.
And I can get into the details of what it was, but I don't think it really matters.
Well,
because I think it's a symptom of a underlying thing that's happening probably in all the banks.
okay.
And that, the issue that's in the news now is risk management.
Mm-hmm.
How was that allowed to happen? Was anybody watching it? Can it happen again? These are all the questions being talked about. Should they be regulated more? And even the politicians are asking those questions now in Washington because of this $2 billion news item.
Mm-hmm.
And so just to run down on the risk, and this has been in the news too, what the company does is they take all the trades in the whole company, and they aggregate them all, and they figure out a risk number for the whole company, and they call it value at risk, or VAR, and that's what you'll see in the news, that they restated the VAR number, and that was sort of leading up to what happened this week.
Okay, I'm not sure I understand. So this VAR number, so what does that mean? Does that stand for something, VAR?
Value at risk.
Okay.
So what it means is if we put so much money into a trade,
Mm-hmm.
with such and such a probability we'll lose this much money. So it's trying to assess how much possible loss there is on all the companies trading. So this is a way to manage risk. It's a method.
You mean the trade, this type of trade that they made, that they lost $2 billion on, is really a way to manage the risk? Is that what you're saying?
Well, this method I'm describing is trying to manage what can happen if the trade goes wrong, basically.
Okay, so you're talking about a strategy of dealing with this kind of huge
Yes.
loss of a trade?
Of alerting people that yes, if you take too much risk on your trade, then you'll cross this threshold that says.
So this is a strategy you're advocating, or is
No, this is what the news is talking about. This is what J.P. Morgan's been using to manage their risk.
but it didn't work?
But it didn't work because there was still this type of loss, So now there's questioning about should this method be used.
So in other words, they stayed within the rules. They stayed within their policy or whatever rule that was going to mitigate this kind of loss, and yet they lost the money anyway. Is that what you're saying?
That's what it sounds like. Now,
All right.
Now what I'm bringing forth now is to say, does this rule actually work? And a lot of people say it doesn't.
Well, it didn't work in this particular case. Is this rule, is it an internal rule of the company, or is it a rule that's applied by regulators?
It's an internal rule.
Okay.
The
All right.
regulators know about that rule, and
Mhm.
they're debating whether to use that or some other rule, and they're trying to revamp the regulations now. Since 2008, they've been talking about revamping them.
Okay.
And this is another chapter of that story.
Now, is this related to derivatives? This trade, this particular trade? Can we talk a little bit about what exactly happened in this trade, or what J.P. Morgan is
So
saying?
what they did is, it was a hedge. Now,
Which are supposed to help you avoid
a
risk.
hedge by definition is
Yeah.
supposed to cover all the scenarios, so that if something were to go up or down, your losses are contained within a range.
Right.
And if it's a perfect hedge, there's no loss. It's completely canceling
Covered.
each other out.
Right.
So this trade was called a hedge, but I'm kind of wondering if that's really true or not. So that's the first part of it. They bought two things that were supposed to offset each other. One was an index.
Mm-hmm.
It was an index of certain bonds,
Mm-hmm.
and they bought some other derivative to offset that index. So if the index went down, this other derivative they bought were supposed to go up, and so the two of them were neutralized
And mitigate the risk to
And mi-
J.P. Morgan.
and
Yeah.
mitigate the risk.
Yeah.
However, in spite of that being set up, this loss still happened.
Mm-hmm.
So now the question is, was it really a hedge?
Yeah.
Is it effective or not? Are they saying everything? Like, is this, do we have all the facts yet? I don't think we do.
Well, is it, now here's my impression, and correct me if I'm wrong about this, but part of the problem is that, and we saw this is what happened in 2008, is that the lenders or the banks, and J.P. Morgan is a bank, right? They're getting further and further away from where the real action is. And what I mean by that is that in the old days, you would go to your local bank who knew the community, and they would lend you the money.
Yeah.
And you would pay them back, and they made that loan based on the fact they knew you, and they knew you'd pay them back, and they knew the situation locally, and the likelihood that economic was going to be stable enough, whatever. Now what happened in the 2008 meltdown in the U.S., people were lending these loans to people, then those loans were being bundled up and then sold to like banks overseas who didn't really know anything about the people who were borrowing the money, didn't know anything about the communities. And because those local lenders were able to pass the buck to a bank in Iceland or whatever, they had no incentive to make sure that loan was actually a good loan and had a high probability of being paid back, because they were able to pass that buck, that hot potato, along to a bank in Iceland. Seems to me this is almost the same thing, where the banks today, instead of making money by making good loans, prudent financial decisions and investments, are almost like playing a casino, and that they have an opportunity by placing a bet in. It's essentially a bet about whether the market's going to go a certain way or an index is going to go a certain way, and they have the opportunity, the potential on the upside to make huge money for just doing one little trade or transaction. But of course, the flip side of that is they can make a wrong trade and bankrupt a company overnight. Is that accurate?
That's some of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what I'll add to it is these bets are leveraged. So if I had $100 and I bet $100 on an outcome, and I paid in cash and I lost $100,
Yeah.
that's the end of the story.
Yeah.
If I have $100 and I borrow $9,900 from someone else,
Yeah.
make that bet,
Mm-hmm.
then I lose. Now I'm down $10,000,
Yeah.
but I only put $100 of my money in it.
Right.
And that 9,900, whoever lent me that, I have to pay them back.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't have the money to pay them back, they're out that money.
Mm-hmm.
And where did they get that money? It'll be from another person, because in our banking system now, everything's connected,
Mm-hmm.
and all that money is borrowed. And so that one loss cascades into
Everything.
a
Everybody
bunch of
loses
losses for
then.
everyone involved in it, which will end up being everyone, because these are big, big banks.
Well, we know what happened in the U.S. was that the banks got bailed out by the taxpayers. So the taxpayers
So that's
ate
the everyone.
that, right? You know, I remember when I was a kid, I used to ask my dad about the what caused the depression and that sort of thing, right?
Mhm.
And he would make a comment like that they had margin.
Yeah.
And that's and you know, so people would borrow 10% to buy you know, they'd only have to put 10% down to buy a stock.
Mhm.
And so that's the same scenario that you're describing. And that after the stock market crash, they removed margin. It goes
Mhm.
back to the point you're making, where if you're not borrowing that money, then you just lose your $100. But when you're borrowing, it's in the long run, nobody wins. Everybody loses this way. Why? It seems that the lessons of the Depression have been lost, and that everybody's like, you know, hey, let's you know, let's have margin in it. That way we can make more money. But you can also lose more money, and you're going to make the whole system more inherently unstable.
Well, yeah, I think that is happening, and we're now we're very unstable now. If you look
Mhm.
at the news releases and how the markets are reacting, and
Yeah.
the volatility, and there's a lot of people just not bothering to invest because they're afraid.
Yeah.
Those are all signs of maximum instability.
Okay.
And so this thing that JP Morgan did is just a symptom of all of that.
Right.
And 2008 was a bigger symptom, and the other crashes were other symptoms. And it's like the you have a swamp and the alligator pokes his head up every once in a while,
Mm-hmm.
but they're always under there. You
Mm.
just don't see them. And then when he pokes his head up, you're like, oh, there's the alligator. You know, and so you point to that specific event and say, yeah, the alligator's there.
Yeah.
But under that swamp, there's all kinds of alligators.
Okay.
And I think we're going to see, well, we've already seen a lot of alligators, but there's going to be more of them, because this one happened to go wrong and it got into the news. But what about the others you don't hear about?
Yeah.
And I mean, JP Morgan's been in the news saying, well, we made a bad judgment call. We had poor management of the trade. But this is the culture of the banks. This is what they're what they're doing now.
Mm-hmm.
And you're paid to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I even have a quote in I think it's Bloomberg News that says people are incentivized to take these risks because that's where the money is. So
Where the big money is.
So if you work there,
Yeah.
you're almost compelled to say, look, I can do my conservative loan for 5%,
Yeah.
or I can crank the leverage up and make 100%.
Well, and this is just it.
And you know, if you're being paid on your performance
Yeah.
or how much money you make,
Uh-huh.
you're going to be compelled to crank the risk as high as you can without getting caught to 100%. And you know, you're going to make a mistake, and then boom, you'll be in the news.
And if you don't make a mistake, so the bank's up $2 billion
Nobody
by
would have heard about it.
making a trade that nobody heard about. But I mean, just think about how wrong that is in the long run, because as opposed to making, you know, 100,000 mortgage loans to real people who are going to pay for those houses, how much easier it is to make one betting transaction like this that may make the bank as much money as lending 100,000 mortgage G's, or, you know, or losing that money and ruining the bank. And it just seems to me that we are getting, and the banking system especially, getting so far removed from the reality of
basic banking.
of real finance, real economics. And even when you go to, like, I mean, there's a lot of people the real unemployment rate is higher than I think it is. But
Yeah.
and when you go to I don't know what are bank fees now on a bounce check? I don't know, $20, $35, something like that.
Something there, yeah.
When I think about that, $35 for a bounce check, and sometimes how hard it is to make $35 in the real world, and a bank just says or slaps on that fee of $35, it's because they're living in a they are that far removed from what's really going on in the economy that even the banking fees themselves are too high, because the bankers are too far removed from what it really takes in the real world to make $35 worth of stuff. Okay, so that's one of the alligators that's poking its head up is the JP Morgan thing. But do you have any final thoughts on that, or any even recommendations or anything else you want to say about that before we move on to the next one?
Well, I'm watching to see how this develops. I mean, the regulators are investigating, and that's going to happen. There will be an ongoing stream of news saying we found this or we didn't find that. What I'm looking for to see if anything changes, and also to see how many others crop up. But I'm expecting there's going to be more.
Yeah.
And what to do? Well, this actually doesn't change anything, because it's always been under there, and it's been there for a while. And well, if you're a local person, you can deal with a local bank. And that's the banking end of it. If you're in the stock market, you'll have to be very conservative about where you have your money, but that goes without saying. People are already saying that. There's not really much else you can do specifically for that. It's more to be aware that things are going on in the banks and you don't know about all of them, because a lot of them are proprietary and confidential, and only when something blows up will you hear about, oh yeah, we missed this one, and therefore somebody got fired, or a regulation rule will be changed.
Interesting.
Etc. And that's how it's going to play out. People have already been fired in the last couple of days.
All right.
So expect that type of pattern.
Yeah, maybe the CEO should get fired for allowing this thing to happen, rather than the lackey who's operating under their supervision.
People they haven't actually said fired, but they've said, is this going far enough? Which, can imply.
Interesting. There are, natural checks and balances, including, how the shareholders feel about this kind of stuff. So we'll see what happens. Shareholders, regulators, the market itself. Okay, so let's talk about one of the other alligators, and I guess that's Europe. And because we've seen, didn't the stock market take a bit of a dive yesterday?
This week.
This week. And is that because of the what's going on in Greece?
Yes.
Okay. So
now what's different now? Greece has been in the news for a while. Yeah, they're going to leave the Eurozone. They've been talking about that. One subtle change, they're openly talking about it. Germany is openly saying, maybe, if Greece leaves, it's not so bad. Or if we want them to stay, but it's up to them to pay the bills, and if they don't. And before, that was absolutely not said. It was, no, we made a deal, they're going to pay, it's, we're all in it together and we're going to work. But now you're starting to hear people say, well, we're in it together, but if it doesn't work, oh well, I think we can manage, So that kind of attitude is saying, okay, they're preparing for something. Before they might have been preparing, but they didn't tell you. Now they're starting to tell you. The other thing about Europe is the political scene. It's dramatically shifting. With
the election in France and Germany
Greece,
too?
Germany was the latest one.
Yeah.
Well, Europe was fairly socialist in the past.
Yeah.
Then it began to go to the right, the hard right. And that's showing up in the immigration news in Europe. And with the austerity measures and bailouts are hard right. Slash costs, reduce the debt, etc., etc. Now, these last three elections, it's swerving to the left.
Okay.
The French said, no, we don't like all this stuff.
Mhm.
We're going to vote for this Holland guy
Yeah.
who's talking about raising taxes
Mhm.
and pro-growth, which means spend money
Mhm.
so that the GDP can get bigger and
Mhm.
that'll pay off our debt,
Right.
which is completely the opposite of the austerity measures. It says cut everything and in time we'll catch up.
Is that what Sarkozy was doing?
That's what he was doing.
Right.
And the Greeks had somebody who was also pro-austerity, and he lost his majority, and now they have a fragmented government, which means they're not really sure what they're going to do. But the person who's in the lead is the opposite end, saying we don't buy this, and we're going to reverse all of these things that we had promised in the deals.
Mm-hmm.
So that attitude is completely opposite of everything up till now. And so that's telling me that the voters have always been disgruntled,
Mm-hmm.
but now it's getting to the top of the political chain. And so some of the leaders are they're reflecting what the voters have always been saying. We don't like it. We don't want to have to suffer all this. And so now it'll be interesting to see what happens in Europe as a result of this. Are they going to reverse all the austerity measures, or are they going to continue to... And if they don't reverse them, will the protests increase?
Well, here's the thing. Like, I mean, this is an interesting discussion, because it seems to me what we're really seeing, what's really going on, and in fact, there was a big article in the Globe about what Germany should do. Who wrote it? Doug Saunders, I think. Did you read that article? I think it was Doug Saunders. Anyways, that Germany needs to spend more, because I guess Germany's not really spending a lot of money, right? And so Doug Saunders' solution to the whole Euro crisis is for the Germans to spend more and buy more products from Greece and Spain and the other Euro economies that are in trouble. But I wrote a response back basically saying that, you know, you're thinking inside the box. And the real solutions are way outside of that little box, because what the real long-term trend that's going on here is that debt levels, public and private, are going up and up and up. Maybe not in Germany so much, but certainly in these countries that are in trouble in the Eurozone and all around the world, frankly. You know, what are the public and private debt levels? Higher than ever, right? And so that money has to be paid back with interest. And governments look at that, governments that have large deficits that they use to pump up their economy, keep people employed, build infrastructure, keep social services going. Now they have to pay that money in interest on the money that they borrowed, and the only way to do that is to cut all that stuff. So the amount of interest that these countries are paying is higher than ever, and the only way they can afford to pay the interest is to cut real services. The real problem in the long term is that the debt levels are unsustainable, and they'll always be unsustainable because it's compound interest, and where's that money going to come from? The only way that place that money can come from, because all the currency is only created as a debt, is by creating more debt, which means more interest. And interest is money that's going to bankers that could have been going to people who are doing real things in the economy, like building infrastructure, doing social services, right? The interest is for what? Nothing. That's the real problem, and the real solution has to be outside of that. It has to be a reinvention of the money system. I know I'm going too far now, but...
Well, I mean, that's essentially what's happening. Now, that person who wrote about Germany is kind of saying what Holland is saying. Let's just spend our way out. And I believe what's underneath that, the austerity measures aren't working, and you can look at the statistics. All the debt is still going up in Ireland and Italy, in Greece, even though they've slashed for years, 2-3 years.
And we're doing it here in
GDP
Canada too.
Is very bad, and we're doing it here.
Yeah.
And our debt is really not going down.
No, it's
They're
not.
saying 2016 or 2020, but they were saying that 20 years ago, and we're still here. So.
And the IMF is here in Ontario telling Dalton McGuinty that he's got to cut stuff, sell off public assets, you know, cut social services, cut education.
It's an old pattern.
And yeah.
They were doing that in the 90s, I remember that. And the services were never restored. What was cut then, and it's been cut further since.
And even the protests in Quebec are really, it's part of this same problem. The government is trying to cut, make the students pay more for their education. And the students in Quebec, at least, because they don't put fluoride in the water, are saying no.
Yeah.
Right? So, Joe, what's going to happen?
That I don't know.
Well, we need...
It really depends on what the people do. I mean, we could have huge riots. We could have debt forgiveness. We could have hyperinflation. We could have deflation. It really depends on which way the tide blows. But whatever's happening now is not going to last for 20 more years. Something's going to give. And it's a matter of who will do the giving and how much awareness will there be with everybody. I think the awareness is going up of all of this, like the debt levels, the austerity, the whole big picture, which 20 years ago, if you came out and said, it's all about the debt, they'd say, well, we'll just go away. But now a lot of people are saying it is all about the debt. This other stuff is just covering up, and we need something that is outside the box, outside the Keynes box, outside the old paradigm box, outside the print money box, etc., etc., etc. Spend your way out. I've heard that for a long time, that, well, if you just spend money, everything's going to be okay. You'll be a good patriot. And, I mean, the States tried that. Let's just spend our way into...
Well, they really haven't...
But they're not really coming back, so... And, now they're saying that in Germany and France, and it's like... If it hasn't worked in the States for 30 years... How can Germany turn it around there? So these are all the same patterns. And I think what is going to happen is people will start going out of those patterns and saying, we really do need something different. And we're now ready to do it.
But who's going to implement it? What politician has the solution that they can implement legislatively?
The people will have to push them to...
But even if somebody announced they have a solution today, who's going to believe them? And I'm not trying to be negative here, but even you mentioned outside the Keynesian box. Well, when Keynes came in, we know about Keynes now, and we accept that he had the right idea at the right time. But at the time, he had to convince everybody that this was the solution, because before Keynes came along, the government said, we got an economic problem, and they started behaving like households in the microeconomic sense and withdrew spending from the marketplace, which was exactly the opposite of what Keynes's prescription was, right? So, Keynes was outside of the box. We need somebody now to come from outside of the box with a solution that can be implemented and fix the problem. But it's like inventing the next social network. You don't really know who it's going to be until they've achieved the success
until
through.
You're in it.
Yeah.
Which is but because of what's happening, something is going to give somewhere. It isn't going to be more of this.
People talking about the hyperinflation possibility of that, and we saw the U.S. Fed inject, theoretically at least, billions, maybe trillions of dollars over the last couple of years, but that money doesn't seem to be hitting the street. And so at the street level, there's no inflation. I mean, that money's all, I don't know who's circulating that money, but
inside the banks.
It's in the banks, and it's just numbers on computer screens. It's not on the street, which has kept inflation from going crazy. But, and people, money's, it's a tight money situation for a lot of people on the street. But could that change, or is the system so different now that even though all this money is being pumped in theoretically, it's just not going to hit the street?
Well, I think eventually it will.
Yeah.
Otherwise, how I see it is, if it indeed is created, it will have to be on the street. They might be pulling a bluff and say, yeah, we pumped $3 trillion in, but we only gave it to 3 people, and the 3 people are sitting on it.
Yeah.
Well, if money doesn't circulate, it's dead.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what they've done.
Mm.
Here's $3 trillion to tell everybody, yeah, you know, look at all this money you're going to get, but 3 people sit on it, so where is it? I haven't seen it. And I think the common person is saying, where is it? I haven't seen it. I can't pay my bills. I don't have a job, this, that, whatever. So I'm just going to do what I've always done. And so nothing's changed. And
Okay.
so I think it's more of a psychology
Yeah.
event than a real event. But in a flick of a switch, that money can hit the street, and then you will get all the things that happen after. So
Well, the good thing is you might actually get some people doing some stuff we need, like helping people or teaching people or building roads and infrastructure. You know, if the money hits the street, maybe we can do some of that. But whether there's the wisdom at a policy level to do that, I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
All right, Joe. So we don't know what to expect. The markets, how are they doing today? Do you know?
I don't know, actually.
All right. So they've been down. They were down yesterday over the Greek crisis, and probably a bit over this J.P. Morgan thing too. People.
The bank sector was down.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess we'll just have to keep our eye on the ball and keep having you back here on the show and to stay on top of this stuff. But in the meantime, people can get in touch with you, right? If they want help with their investments or anything else like that.
Yeah. My website is joeltheinvestor.ca.
Mm-hmm.
And I also have a second site, www.joeltheinvestorgroup.com, and all my contact information's there.
JoeTheInvestorGroup.com.
Group.com, yeah.
Okay, Joe. Thanks, as always, for having this conversation.
Yes, thanks a lot.
Okay, so let's take a little break. We're going to come back. Shawn Dalton is in the house talking about immigration, and we'll be right back here on Liquid Lunch.
Closes around me, and I can see my hands reach out to feel your face. All around me is fingers blaming
Welcome back here to Liquid Lunch. It's me, Hugh, and we got Shawn Dalton here. And Shawn, this is part of an ongoing conversation about Canadian immigration, right?
Yeah.
So, which is all. It seems the Globe and Mail is on a mission these days to say that immigration is the solution to all of Canada's problems.
Well, it sure solves the problems if you're a lawyer. It helps lawyers make quite a bit of money.
Well, it's good that lawyers make money.
It is, but sometimes they make quite a bit of money off of just requiring people to fill out a form, and then they charge $1,000 per applicant. I just figured out the costs on the way to your studio on the bus, subway.
Okay.
And I calculated that for 250,000 people, the lawyers make about anywhere between $250 million a year, and that's a conservative estimate, and between $437,500,000 per year in fees.
And that's just from dealing with the immigration situation here in Canada.
That's just from bringing them in. Like they charge $1,000 minimum, and then the landing fees they charge anywhere from $475 to about $900. And my calculations on the conservative side, on the lower end, so that's a conservative estimate of the amount of money they bring in. It averages out to about $200,000 per each lawyer, and there's 2,000 immigration consultants. Stephen Harper's new policy, basically requiring people to prove they know English or French and have a job offer, will wipe out about 1,800 of the 2,000 consultant jobs.
Which is a good thing.
Well, I can read you some things here about some of the results of how mass immigration's affected the newcomers. Okay, 2006 statistic. Canada study released something rather astonishing. Many thousands of immigrants do come here to become Canadians or make Canada their home. A lot of them don't, though. More than 1/6 of all immigrants who come to Canada return to their native countries within a year, and 1/3 within 20 years. And then here's another one from Ryerson University. According to Wendy Kukier, founder of Diversity Institute in Management and Technology at Ryerson University, a 2008 study spearheaded by her shows that 40% of immigrants who entered Canada in the skilled worker or business class left Canada within their first 10 years. And then a previous study by StatsCan indicated that 1/3 of male immigrants aged 25 to 45 at the time of landing left Canada within 20 years after arrival, and more than half of those did within the first year. So these are all either from the government or from accredited university institutions.
You mean these studies?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a dismal failure. Like people, for some reason, don't want to stay here or feel frustrated here, and they end up leaving. So.
Well, I heard just anecdotally within the last week that a lot of people who are in Canada from India and China in particular are going back. Because the opportunities in China and in India are far greater than they are here in Canada.
Or they get an education here, and it's worth more over there because of the way the poverty rate there is higher. And if you know something, you can benefit. You can use that when you go back, right? But that's not what our immigration systems. We're not supposed to educate people and then send them home to succeed over there. They're supposed to, contribute to Canada's next chapter, either a business or a book, a restaurant.
Are we building the country, or are we just a sucker for everybody in the world that wants to come here and take what they can from the country and then take it elsewhere, right?
Are we a truck stop, a hotel, or a real country?
Exactly.
That's debatable.
And especially with this series that the Globe is doing, where they're saying that the immigration is the answer to what Canada needs. And they often cite the labor market, that we need to bring people in to do the work that why don't we train Canadians?
Absolutely.
There's a lot of Canadians that would love to have a job
absolutely.
Doing something. Why don't we train them
Can I read you
instead of educating everyone from all around the world? Let's educate Canadians to do the work that we need done.
The Ontario edition of the Canadian Immigrant for March 2012. An article was published in the Fusion section entitled "Expansion of PNP Urged." TD chief economist Craig Alexander says that income and employment gaps are significant, and they are not integrating properly into the Canadian economy. Readers learn that, quote, according to the Toronto Immigrant Employment Data Initiative, the unemployment rate for recent immigrants in January 2012 was 12.8%, compared with 8.2% for all immigrants and 5.6% for Canadian-born workers. Census data show that recent immigrants earn only slightly more than half the average earnings of Canadians-born workers.
And see, you can that is a problem that's going to become a bigger problem in the long run. If we've got new Canadians who are here and they are finding that they can't get employment, they're going to start to potentially feel a little bit of resentment towards this country where that they were sold on was being a land of opportunity, and they come here and all of a sudden they're living in ghettos of other new Canadians who are in similar poor economic situation. If we can't find jobs for everyone in this country, new Canadians and old Canadians, and then why do we need more people?
If they're going to help create the new economy, they have to at least be able to speak English. If they're going to sell their ideas or visions in the labor market, and if other people are going to buy into them or appreciate them, it helps if they, communicate in the same language the rest of the population communicates, and then they can do those things,
right,
achieve the wealth they want to achieve, and hopefully it'll create wealth for other people. And then with all the wealth, people can reinvest it in, buying a house, a car. That'll create jobs for the local economy. Like it's a trickle down effect.
Well, we want to have. We're happy to have new Canadians. We just want to have jobs for them.
Yeah.
And we want to
be able to talk to them,
to work with them,
make friends with
them,
to
build this country,
marry them,
right? And instead of creating a situation where we could have people fighting each other in the country because of economic disparity. And sometimes I wonder, Shawn, this is my conspiracy side, but is somebody trying to really, including the Globe and Mail, just trying to open the floodgates, let people come into this country, let them fail, and create a really tense, dysfunctional social environment.
Well, like us,
keep people fighting each other, so that we can't get together and fight off the real problem, and that's the people that are trying to get us to fight each other.
Well, I was just reading a book on Pierre Trudeau. I have 2 books on Pierre, The Northern Magus, and I have another one about Pierre Trudeau, and a third one I bought from the York Library. There was 2 people who knew him and wrote a book about him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and almost everyone who was the head of the Liberal Party was a lawyer, like Chrétien, Trudeau, even Mulcair for the NDP. He used to be part of the Quebec City Liberals. I found that out a couple days ago when I was going through my paper bag.
Of the Quebec what?
He was the head of the Quebec City. He worked for the Quebec City Liberals. He was a member of the Liberal Party.
Right.
For one of the departments, I think for the environment.
Yeah.
So, lawyers are the worst. Like they tend to lie for a living. They have to defend people no matter what.
Yeah.
I'm not biased against lawyers, but the track record proves that when we've had them in charge, they do a lot less for the greater good of the whole country than, Harper's not a lawyer, so he said when he became to power he was going to do things for the benefit of the whole.
I don't think it matters once they get to those Bilderberg meetings and they get hypnotized to do just whatever the global order wants them to do,
right,
which is obviously what's happened to Harper.
I'm going to give Harper the benefit of the doubt because I know his history. I know he was head of the National Citizens Coalition. He was the president of the Reform Party. He was always in charge of an organization. He has leadership qualities. As dictatorial as he is, he's not a lawyer, and he seems to have different ideas. He's making a break from the past. I mean, he just refunded 280,000 applications and gave back 160 million in fees. He's basically saying we're going to start over. We're going to have standards.
But what are they going to do now? Because now you're seeing, we had a conversation a couple weeks ago, and you were saying that there was some positives and some negatives to the changes in the immigration policy that the Harper government is putting forward. It's been a couple weeks now. Where do you see things are at now?
I think the positives are people will be able to have a job offer, have their credentials recognized, and they'll be able to work in the field they want to. I used to work with a gentleman in the nighttime in a security job, and he was a librarian at the UN library. He was from India, and he came here, and he's like, well, I'm going to go back to India. I'm like, what field are you trying to get into? So I'm trying to be a librarian. He goes, Shawn, I'm a senior librarian for the UN's library for 7 to 10 years, and I have all this experience, and I like, have you tried an informational interview? He goes, no, well, what is that? I'm like, well, I went to one of those job things at the YMCA, and they talked about the hidden job market, and they said, we'll do an informational interview, and I'm like, well, what is that? And they go, well, go to an employer, you book an appointment, you ask what does it take to work in this position,
even though they may not even have a job.
Yeah, absolutely.
You contact them and say, I would like to just have some information. Can I meet with somebody and get some info?
Absolutely. So he tried that, and the librarian actually said, started asking him questions back, like, what's your experience? And when he told her, he's like, oh, Mohammed, you shouldn't apply for this junior job. You're more qualified for the senior. We have 2 other positions open. And because he took the initiative, he actually had a job offer. Now he's working at the library in Brampton. He's not a security guard anymore.
Because of your suggestion.
He was going to go back to India.
Interview.
Absolutely. So I didn't benefit from the YMCA thing because I didn't have the experience to leverage that, but he did. And I saved him the trip back home, and he was about to have a second child, and he was miserable from working graveyard shifts. I mean, I worked with him and another guy, right?
So he's doing well.
he's doing better than he was.
Yeah.
You know, he's working in the field he wants to, and he was very happy that he had the opportunity to work in the field that he has his professional accreditation. And he's,
right. Awesome.
So,
well, that was great. A great favor that you did
so
for him.
hopefully someone will do me a favor like that one day. But
well, why don't you do an informational interview with somebody in your field?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I want to be a writer, so I'd just be grateful getting a book published. So
well, I don't know about that. That's so writing.
Yeah,
it's pretty dentistry.
It's pretty solitary. I don't know about dentistry. I'm good at getting my teeth cleaned. I don't know how good I'd be at cleaning other people's teeth.
You get a dental hygienist from India to do that.
But since I mentioned an advantage of Harper's new immigration program, I'll mention a disadvantage. The guest worker program. I mean, between 2001 and 2010, it went up 290%. I mean, in 2001, we were bringing in 96,390 people. 2010, it was 282,771 people. As you said before, why can't Canadians, pick berries or lift boxes or whatever, work on the farm? I mean, I worked on the farm.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, that's an interesting economic, I mean, they have the same problem in the U.S., right? Big time, especially in L.A., right?
Yeah.
Because in L.A., and we need farm workers up here, right? And we don't want to pay them minimum wage.
So the government subsidizes it with a program.
Because the businesses are saying, well, we can't pay minimum wage or our produce can't compete with the produce coming in from Mexico, right? So we need to have cheap labor, and Canadians won't work for that, so we need to have like guest labor to do it. So it's a complicated economic situation, and it seems to me the Harper government is kind of doing this because they are supposedly the business government, and they're trying to help the businesses that are saying we need this, we need to have cheap foreign labor.
Well, if they cut down on the other end, like if they ensure that there's going to be a job offer for people coming here, I look at that as a good thing. I mean, we've been 21 years with a broken immigration system. It's about time when people came here with degrees and diplomas that they can work in the field that they're supposed to work in. I mean, if we want to build a country, then people have to be doing what they love to do.
All right.
Okay,
so what do you think the government is doing? Because the Globe and Mail is on this mission that we need a flood of immigrants that will solve all of Canada's problems. Is that what the Harper government is doing? Are they, through these policy changes, are they opening up the floodgates?
No, they're closing them. They're going to be selective with people are going to have to know French or English and have a job offer, and that's different because there was a study that was just done, and they said that there was only 247,000 jobs created during the 3 months of last year, during a 3-month period during the summer, and there was 3.3 Canadians looking for work for every job created. So we have a flood of unemployed people right here.
Right.
Then companies aren't going to hire overseas unless they can, like if they can't find an applicant in the labor market, then they'll go overseas. So it'll decrease the amount of people coming in because companies always try to do the most reasonable thing, and the most reasonable thing is to hire locally.
You know? Well, this kind of harkens to our previous discussion with Joe, because talking about the economic problems plaguing Europe and what does it take to build an economy. And there was also another article in the Globe, I think Doug Saunders wrote it, saying that the answer for Europe is for Germany to spend more. Yeah. Well, why is Germany so successful? Well, Germany's so successful because they have a very educated workforce, people that work hard, and to create products and services that people need.
There was also an article in the paper about why Germany is so successul, why they have such a low unemployment. I think it's like 5.5%, and their neighbors are all 4 times that amount or 5 times that amount. The Germans have a system of like putting people into trades, and they found out doing research, like studies, that people in trades are more likely to be innovative. They're more likely to create like a little gizmo that could revolutionize something. So the Germans are always making things. Yeah. So when you make something, you can sell it, and they make things of high quality.
When you have that kind of capacity to be creative, to make stuff, to build stuff, yes, of course, you can build inventions. I noticed when I was a student, I was working at a big plant, and I noticed they have trades, of course, work in the plant, whether they're electricians or mechanics or whatever it is, but there were very few of those skilled tradespeople, and they make good money, and they're in demand, that were actually Canadian born, because we didn't have a system that was able to take kids through the education system and get them into trades that are going to provide them with high-paying, high-skilled jobs for the rest of their life. And a lot of these skilled guys had to come from overseas. They were, you know, they had their skills and their what do you call that? They were like I can't think of the word right off the top, but they were you know, where you're learning on the job.
Oh, like journeymen and stuff, and journeywomen.
Well, I don't know what that means, but anyway, but the apprenticeships.
Yeah, that's what it means.
Right?
It means like you're starting from nothing, and then you're learning as you're
Yeah,
learning
and
to
you
get more
need
money.
to do that in these certain trades. You can't just get your school and go apply it in the workplace. You really need to learn on the job, and learn in the company and the mentorship of somebody who's been there and has the experience, right? And that's what this apprenticeship is for. But a lot of the guys in these skilled, highly paid, highly sought after positions were from elsewhere, either from the UK or from India, or they were from wherever, where they have these kind of apprenticeship programs. And we're just doing a bad job of doing that in Canada. And if we really want to build our economy, let's educate people and let's have some projects, some political will to build the country up. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. I agree with that.
Okay. What else should we talk about with respect to the immigration today, Shawn?
Okay. I think the schools should eliminate the pilot projects for foreign languages up to grade 3. Kids are not learning English properly or French. They're allowed to learn Mandarin and Arabic for the first 3 years, 50% of the time. So by the time they get to grade 4, they won't know enough English. There's a huge dropout rate of young kids, and they feel frustrated by the time they reach high school, and the teachers are like, okay, you're going to have to write an essay. And they're thinking in another dialect. Like,
so is there new policy to address this?
This is provincially, but federally, Harper's going to require people to prove they know French or English. So new Canadians are going to be, well qualified to sell their skills in the labor market. But if we're doing this to the children in Ontario, this is from the Trudeau era, where where we don't have any confidence in our own culture to basically say, okay, we're an English-speaking nation. Please learn our language. We're saying, okay, if you want to, you can you can learn your own language. I mean, people should do that on their own. I mean, it's great that people want to learn another language, but it shouldn't be up to the government to fund. There was actually an article in the Globe and Mail about multiculturalism, and they said that it might be good to have it, but the government shouldn't sponsor it. They shouldn't support it or promote it. They should promote Canadian history or culture, and let if people want to preserve their own culture, that's great. It's up to them to do it. It shouldn't be up to the government to try to encourage people to live as if they've never left. You leave the old country. I mean, things are all new, and it's
So that was in the Globe. So have you been following this series that the Globe has about how we need a flood of immigrants to solve all of Canada's problems?
I haven't, but I have articles from the Globe that says we have labor shortages left, right, and center from the Center for Policy Alternative, the CCPL or whatever. And
well, we might have labor. Is that true? I mean,
no,
I don't feel
it's
labor.
Absolutely not.
So who are these centers, these policy research, and why are they putting out this information?
They're influenced by the NGOs, like the labor lawyers, the immigration lawyer consultants. They're all in it. They all have like a little, it's like a gang. So they get together and they write articles, and the newspapers will publish them, right? I mean, they put ads in the papers, so they make revenue off of that. So they can influence the newspapers. The great thing about the information era is we don't need the newspapers to tell us what the reality is anymore. I mean, I managed to get lots of facts and statistics. Basically, here's one right here. It says, according to Statistics Canada, as of May 2010, 1,498,300 people were unemployed in Canada. Yes, you are reading it right. Figures for May 2010 show that 1,498,300 people were looking for jobs in this country. Which surely begs the question, why in the world are we importing another 250,000 immigrants, to say nothing of 30,000 to 40,000 refugees, 250,000 temporary workers, and 79,000 foreign students each and every year? Question mark. That's from Mayday Mayday, Curb Immigration, Stop Multiculturalism, or It's the End of the Canada We Know by Lowell Green. He's on 580 Radio. This is a best-selling book, and it was released 2 years ago. So, if we have all these people unemployed.
So why is the Globe doing this then?
Because they're connected to lawyers, and the Liberal Party won 75 of the last 105 elections, and it's been a tradition to just bring people in and not ask any questions. It's been they've never had to have a debate about it. We've never had a debate about it as a country.
Well, you said that started under Mulroney, was it? Because he was starting to use immigration policy to build up a cadre of conservative voters, right?
But the reason he got destroyed was because he threatened to de-index old age pensions, and the seniors turned on him, and Seniors know a lot of people, and they blew out his party in '93. Like by the time '93 came, the Liberals came back, and they kept the policy the same. They, Jim Candigetis from Scarborough, he went to the Tamil Tiger rally, and the guy from CSIS, the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, said, "Don't go to that rally. These guys are terrorists. They got suicide bombing. The money it's helping the war in Sri Lanka continue." I think a Canadian just died 2 days ago in Sri Lanka. He owns some businesses. I don't know, did you read the article?
No.
It was in the paper yesterday or today. He went to Sri Lanka, where the Kilanache, that used to be where the Tamil Tigers were fighting for the separatist homelands, and he got killed by the army there. But Sri Lanka's on a warning list. Like, don't go to this country, it says. It's dangerous. He went there anyway, and he got murdered because of it. In a very gruesome. I'm not going to get into the details, but some horrible things happened to him.
Yeah, these things happen.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
it's very sad, but it's it's a dangerous world sometimes.
It is.
And anyway, people make their choices, and we're all going to die one day.
I know. He owned like 6 or 7 stores there too. So apparently he was wealthy over there.
Yeah.
Which begs the question, like, why isn't he creating wealth here? Why does he need to?
Well, it sounds like a nice place. I wouldn't mind maybe setting up in Sri Lanka sometimes.
Sri Lanka?
As long as I'm not on the beach when the tsunami hits.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Shawn, not a lot of time left, but what else do you want to mention today and discuss today?
I want to talk about some of the things going on in India. We've experienced 7 or 8 honor killings in Canada over the past 3-4 years.
Okay.
And this is from the Times of India. Do you mind if I read this?
Sure.
Okay. It says, the Times of India reports that in India alone, experts say more than 1,000 youth are summoned to a brutal death in the name of honor. That is around the same number which is estimated for its neighbor Pakistan, which, quote, has the highest per capita incidence of honor killings in the world. It also says in another article that more than 8,500 acid attacks. You familiar with those?
Yeah.
I wasn't, so it was new for me. Forced marriages and other forms of violence against women were reported in Pakistan in 2011, according to the Aurit Foundation, a women's rights organization. Because the group relied mostly on media reports, the figure is likely an undercut. So I broke down those numbers, and basically that's 708 acts of violence, including acid attacks, forced marriages, rapes, and murders every single month, or about 23 attacks each day. So you're going to get one violent attack of this nature, usually towards a woman, every single hour of the year. Like every hour, one of these kinds of things happens.
Well, that's horrible.
So
it's good.
So
we can't allow that here.
No, absolutely not. But these are some of the countries on our source country list, and some of them will commit these kinds of things because they just believe that they're superior to women. Like the patriarchal mindset that allows people to perpetuate violence against, women. For these kinds of things.
I think we just have to say this is welcome to Canada, and if you're welcome to come here, and we do things this way, and get people to have some buy-in before they even make the decision. If they're going to choose Canada, I think they need to choose a Canadian way of life, and that needs to be, I think the government or whoever is managing immigration needs to make that quite clear. Is this new government or the Harper government, are they doing that? Are they setting that tone?
I think they
for
are.
What it is to be a Canadian?
I think they're doing more than other governments. Like if they're not doing it perfectly, which no one really does, they're doing a lot more than other governments. Jason Kenney's releasing a press release 2 a week. I mean, the Liberal press release like once every 2-3 weeks. Like and it was basically a vague outline. Kenny's releasing, it seems like the guy just works 24 hours a day. Like it seems like every week they're doing something different.
Okay.
They're tightening up Bill C-4. They're detaining refugees to find out if they really are refugees. Bill C-31 that takes away benefits from refugees. I mean, that's a bit harsh.
Yeah.
If we take in refugees, we should give them dental and medical. We can afford it. I mean, if they're really refugees, they need help, right? You can't just bring in refugees and then deny them medical,
them
right?
On the streets.
That's really cruel.
Yeah.
So there's got to be, and they amended that bill because of the, because of the NDP criticism. They didn't have to, but they did anyway, which was nice of them.
Okay.
So they are fixing it up, and hopefully we'll have a better immigration system in the next 4 years than we had in the last 21, because it can't be worse than the one we're just getting rid of, because the one we had created poverty, division, extremism. They didn't have anything to buy into, so some people resorted to, like some Canadians went back to Somalia and fought with Al-Shabaab in the wars, and they died. They never came back. You know, so if we don't do a good job of bringing people in and making them a part of our Canadian family, evil forces could take hold of them and they can end up hurt or dead. You know?
Absolutely.
So we need to be more than just a tolerant country. We need to be a welcoming country that is willing to have some kind of standard and say, you know, as you said in the last one, we're trying to have a country here, right? So I really like that. I really like that comment. I thought that was awesome.
Thanks.
Never heard that before, so.
Well.
And it makes a lot of sense.
We're trying without the government's help. Okay, Shawn. Well, I whatever the government does and whatever the Globe and Mail does, you are on this topic and you're writing about it. And do you want to let people know what is there a place where people can get and stay in touch with you about these issues? I know you had somebody saw your last interview, got in touch with you.
Yeah, they sent me an email, which was surprising.
Yeah.
Someone from a University of British Columbia. He said he agrees with the issues being discussed and Canadians are afraid to talk about them, but it's good that other people are starting to have debates about these issues.
Yeah. It's if ordinary, if I can use that word, Canadians like you and me can't have this conversation, then we're going to leave it over to the pundits at the Globe and Mail to set policy for us.
Absolutely.
And I think it's time that we started to take control of the country back. And when I say we, I mean Canadians.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's run Canada for Canadians instead of for a global elite that just wants to have corporations suck the life out of each and every one of us. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, they're making $250 million a year for each of the $250,000. That's $1,000 for the landing fee, and then they charge another $490 to $975 up front, and that's not including the wife or any kids that they can take in. So that's they're making about $437,500,000. That's a conservative estimate. It's probably a lot higher than that. So that's my conservative estimate. That's how much the 2,000 immigration consultants are making, and they average out to $200,000 a year per consultant. That's really good money. It's an easy job. You just make them fill a form out, get $1,000, do a couple more things, get another $500 to $1,000 in that range, and you've made you could work 10 months and take the whole summer off, buy 2 or 3 homes. It's a very, very lucrative thing, and this has been going on for too long. People should earn their Canadian identity and be integrated properly. They shouldn't be left on their own to figure out a complex society like Canada. They need to be, showed a little bit how it works.
Absolutely.
Because Canada is not an easy country to understand, even when you were born here.
Yeah. It's like a joke. That's what I think being Canadian is.
Yeah,
like
it is.
Being in on the joke.
Every decade they're joking. Like, what is a Canadian? And
you're in on the joke. You meet on a Canadian overseas, you get the joke.
Or where are you from? And you tell them you're from Canada. They go, no, where are you really from? That's something that popped up in a book I recently read, and they were making fun of that. Like, that's one of the most common things. Where are you from? Oh, I'm Canadian. No, seriously, where are you really from? Like, it's like we're not allowed to admit that we were born in this country. If you were born here, you can't be anything else. It's impossible.
Yeah.
So,
okay, Shawn. Well, this is great. So people, where can people get and stay in touch with you or your work on this topic?
They could send me an email at shawn@endoffees.ca.
Okay.
ENDOFFEES.ca, no spaces. Or they could even call me if they want. Do you mind if I give my number on your show?
No, go ahead.
Okay, it's 416-557-5666. And that's a risk I'm willing to take. I don't, if unknown people call me and badger me, well, I guess that's my own fault for doing that. But if if people really want to talk about this, I know quite a bit about it, so I'm comfortable sharing this information because I've read quite a bit about it.
Okay, great.
So maybe I can help someone understand it if they have questions.
And we'll put all that contact info in the credits so people can get that after the fact, or just rewind the tape and check it out.
Well, God bless you. Thank you kindly.
Thank you, Shawn, for doing this again today and carry on the good work. And we're going to take a little break and actually maybe even wrap up the show. We're not sure anymore. So that's it.
We don't know.
Everybody, thanks. Here on thatchannel.com, Liquid Lunch. We'll see you tomorrow.